Hello, welcome to Hoppy Valley, the Burton History Podcast with me, Blue Yates, and I'm joined as ever by my colleague Jim Ellington. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Blue.
How are you, sir?
I am rendiferous.
On the other side of the Trent, there in State Mill. So today we're going to sort of introduce the eponyms of Burton, specifically in relation to schools. We've got quite a few characters from history who have schools named after them. We're also kind of broadly, kind of possibly, kind of bring this out towards people who have streets named after them or other things. People whose names have gone down in Burton history. And today's person is a person that Jim has done a lot of research into and has a personal connection to, having attended the Abbot Beyne School. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
Abbot Beyne. Abbot William Beyne, to give him his full name. Um, so, Abbot William Beyne was Abbot of Burton at the end of the abbey's life, really. I mean, there were two abbots that succeeded him, but um, Abbot William Beyne is, I suppose, most famous today for the founding of the school, Abbot Beyne School. Um, the school itself does trace its lineage directly back to the original free school founded by the abbot,
yeah. I mean that's
which
quite an
was in
that's quite an interesting start point there. Yeah. What sort of what sort of date we're talking about for the actual establishment of the original school that presumably was connected to the abbey itself?
1520 and actually not connected to the abbey.
Right.
Um, so we know that the abbey as a seat of learning and scholastic work, the learning that went on at the abbey would have had a school within it. All the abbeys had schools within them. Um, but in 1520, Abbot Bane founds what is recognised as the first free school. Um, Now, that isn't free as in doesn't have a fee to attend it. It does have a fee to attend it, but it is free of the church's influence. Um, so this is this happens. Why does Abbot Bane decide, well, I'm going to move this school from inside the abbey's walls and within the abbey's political and financial uh, control to outside of our influence? It's because of the Reformation. So 1520, the Reformation is in full swing. Abbeys up and down the country are being closed, the church is being split, um, and Henry VIII's effort to become leader of the his own religion are in full effect. Um, Now, a lot of people perhaps don't know how he went about this, and it's an interesting and important point, I think, at this juncture of our story to look at. So you can't just overnight say, that's it, you're not allowed to be Catholic anymore. Well, I mean, you could, but it would be hard to enforce across an entire nation where technologically we don't have any, we don't have any modern technology in terms of communications. To send messages up and down the country, it's a bloke on an horse. Um, you're not going to get anywhere any quicker than that. So the Reformation process, the dissolution of the monasteries, occurs almost in a similar way to Ofsted happens now. the king forms with his with his cronies a inspectorate that is dispatched around the country to inspect abbeys and other Catholic institutions and find them lacking in virtuous quality.
So
And
they kind of, you think that the sort of off monk people, or whatever you want to call them,
yes,
are
off
they
monk.
kind of, are they being kind of like go and find out, but we really actually want you to come back with this result, whatever you
Yeah,
find. We want you to say that. We want you to say that.
yeah. We want you to trump up the findings as much as
Right.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You oh, and it must be said that however much the efforts of off monk might be skewed into um, the correct answers for the crown, if there is no evidence, they do report no evidence because actually, under Abbot Beyne, the abbey passes its first two inspections. And it isn't until they supplant Beyne and put not his immediate successor, but the successor after that in, that the abbey fails its inspection and is therefore shut down in its Benedictine sense.
So he's operating a fairly kind of tight ship because no one
Yeah,
can find any holes in it. They've had a good look round. They've poked their noses in, but it all seems pretty good.
yeah. And I mean, what we
Yeah.
know,
So it must have been really, really
yeah, what we,
pretty
what we
beyond
know of the history of
reproach.
the abbey is that there were several abbots who were not so, if I was to extend the metaphor, not such good captains,
Yeah.
because we know under their stewardship, there are records of less than virtuous practices being occurred, particularly with some of the gentler sects.
And lots of
However,
opportunity to do this kind of thing, I guess, down
yeah,
Fleet Street and the workshop areas just south of the Abbey, which were probably quite a rough and tumble type of place.
yeah, and
But
certainly in one, at least one documented instance within the abbot's chambers.
right, okay, yeah. So, I mean, do we think that's true, or do you think that's somebody who's come along and sort of made it up to make it look bad?
We don't know. It wasn't Abbot Beyne; it was a different abbot. But he he does end up being expelled from his post because of it. So
Yeah.
it could be fallacious claims in order to oust him. It's
Careful
hard
with
to say from this
careful,
history, isn't it?
careful with that one. Um, do we know anything about Abbot Baines' kind of early life? Do we know if he's from Burton himself? Do we have any kind of
We don't know whether he
way of
was
finding
from
that out?
Burton himself, but he wasn't imported to Burton to be the abbot. He is former to becoming the abbot. He is the prior of Burton Abbey. So he is an internal promotion.
We know that
Um,
a lot of the monks or the people who became senior members at Burton often um, were imposed at places like Cerne Abbas and Winchester. Do we know if Abbot Beyne was involved in any other monasteries before he came to Burton?
I haven't found any record of it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I have spent quite a bit of time researching him. The only record I can find of Abbot Beyne so far is in relation to Burton itself. I can't find him anywhere
Yeah,
else at the moment. That doesn't mean it isn't there,
yeah.
because equally I haven't been able to find anything before he's listed as prior of Burton Abbey. Um, but he is an internal promotion, and what we do know is he does care about Burton and Burtonians. A lot of his efforts during the period of the Reformation are in farming out the wealth of the abbey, the power of the abbey, and the influence of the abbey, so that when the Reformation ultimately does come to Burton, Henry VIII can't get his grubby mitts on all of it. Um, Certainly, There's large amounts of land, there's large amounts of money, and the school itself is a major part of this. In right, we're going to take this and put it outside of our own control, so that on the day that it comes, that's no longer available to the crown. At least not through these means. Whether they
Yeah,
eventually get it in another way,
just kind of putting it beyond their
but certainly
grasp, really.
the school itself stands the test of time. Um, and we're looking at 1520 to today. We're looking at 505 years of history.
So, what sort of locations are we talking about? Where did it first set up, and when did it move its location?
Okay, so it's had several um, seats. Firstly, um, it's a little bit further away from. I initially thought that its first her house outside of the abbey was on Friar's Walk, but there is this brilliant book that I'm holding up for those who are watching, Deus Nobiscum, which is that's actually the motto of the grammar school, Deus Nobiscum. It means through God nobility. Um, and this is a quite a good history of the school. There is also I've not been able to find it on print, but I have found a transcribed edition online of an earlier history of the school written by a schoolmaster. Um, but certainly through this we can find out early things about the abbey, Abbot Beyne, and where the school goes. So um, it says here. The actual date of origin then must remain a mystery, but one assumes its existence earlier than 1520, even if the foundation was in fact a consequence of the Mortmain Licence 1529. And if the school began its independent existence in 1537, with the appointment of Richard Harman, the first schoolmaster of whom we have any knowledge, there definitely was a school in Burton before 1520, but was it a grammar school? We can assume that it was, so 1520 can be accepted as the traditional date for the beginning of the school, but we may believe it started much earlier. And then it goes on to say that its first housing, because what happens is it's set up in trust, so there are trustees. Um, so Abbot Beyne, we know, is Abbot of Burton from 1503 to 1530. Um, and that its first, so the original trustees were three in number, namely William de Thick of Newhall. I love the name de Thick, that's a great surname. William Moorcock of Burton, which again, Moorcock's another great name. These are awesome names. De Thick, Moorcock, and then Hugh Gilbert, which is a really disappointing third name.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's got
but
some living up to do with the other two, so he's but
yeah,
let us down a bit, there, hasn't
yeah. Well, Gilbert's a draper. Um,
he? Say no more.
the thick outlives the others, and in a way goes on to try and take over the school in his own family's sake. He appoints his son, um, the lessee of the land, um, and this is at Aughton. So the original school is at Aughton. So the first moving of the school. And I'm not entirely certain of where Aughton is. I've got a couple of ideas that I need to research a bit further, but um, it means that we can say, well, the school, I think Abbot Bain's decision when moving the school outside of the Abbey's grounds is to actually, let's put it quite remote so that it's really separate.
Trying to
When,
distance it from the political turmoil of the Reformation. And he's got an idea the Abbey's only going one way. That's
yeah,
the direction of travel. So he's trying to take that institution away and put it somewhere insulated from that.
yeah. Um, and then we know. I mean, we have in this history we have. I love this. These are at the time of the new trust taking over. This is 1597. The school rents were as follows: payable from the Duke of Newcastle out of the Clerkenwell House to the headmaster, £3. From Clerkenwell House to the usher, £6. Um, Breason, £21. Orton on the Hill, annual income. But bought on the Hill £25 and annual income £55. So in 1597, we can still see that it's at Orton on the Hill. Now, how is this the income then divvied up, you think? Because £55 is a sumly amount for 1597. Well, the headmaster receives a total of £40 in outgoings for the year. And uh, the under schoolmaster receives £10. So that's quite a drop from schoolmaster to under schoolmaster. And then the next member of staff listed is the bell ringer and sweeper. And how much do you think you might get for being bell ringer and sweeper per annum, Blue?
Not much.
Sorry?
Not much.
Not much. He receives a whole pound,
I was going to say £1.
a pound per annum.
Yeah.
Um,
So
which,
we can see there's a pretty sort of severe drop off in wages, isn't there, between
yeah,
what number one, number two, number three, going from £40 to £1.
yeah. Um, and then there's £2 and 10 shillings paid to the town's coffer for repairs and incidental expenditures. So still, although being at Orton in the Hill on the hill, still linked very much to the town. Um, it does say that the bell ringer was actually a poor scholar, so he is receiving his pound a year whilst receiving his education.
So he still
So
is
it's
a poor.
almost
He
it's
still is
almost
a
a bit
poor
of a
scholar.
yeah, but I suppose in a way it's almost an early scholarship.
Yeah, sort of offering at least some degree of assistance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, just before we go on any further, you talked about Abbot Beyne School and you talked about the grammar school. As time goes on, I mean, is Burton Grammar School and Abbot Beyne one and the same? And where does the other
Yes.
Burton Grammar School, which was I think was it Dovecliff?
So Burton Grammar School, the Burton Grammar School, is um, in later years part of the Beyne Foundation for Education. Um, and this Beyne Foundation for Education is pretty much entirely the boys' grammar and the girls' high. But what we see in its time is that it is always the same school. The other grammar school in Burton isn't tied to the Bain Foundation in any way. But we do have this continual line of it being one school moving from one location to another. I mean, it did spend time in the premises on what is now Friars Walk, in the grounds next to the where the Abbey was. It also was at one point at Bond Street, uh, and in Bond End, and then it has been also um, at its current location in Wintshill. And then once the grammar schools disappear and we lose Burton Grammar School, it becomes the Abbot Beyne Comprehensive.
So yeah, what sort of date we're talking about when we had two grammar schools in Burton then at the same time? What sort of date is the grammar school system sort of lost? When does it all become comprehensive?
Now, I'm not so good on modern history, so I'm not 100% certain without double checking, but I think it's around the 70s, I think. Blah, 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 blah. Let me
But
double check. This makes awful radio. Me double checking facts.
no, well, I mean,
Um,
let's not get hung up on that. But
okay, sorry.
suffice it to say that at some point in the 70s type period of time. Um, so what sort of? I mean, you went to the Abbot Beyne School at Winsill.
Yes.
Is there much history of the foundation that's actually in the school still? Is there any are there any artifacts or anything that's actually kind of a substantial memory
Well,
of its great antiquity?
in my time at the school, there were in the meeting or conference room, as it was called, in the Linnell building, which was the girls' high, there was a chest, a wooden chest, and a wooden throne type chair um, that were indeed possessions of the abbot himself. So these of great antiquity, dating from 1520 at least, um, we know were Abbot Bain's possessions, later bequeathed to the school, and were in the school's possession, I can say for certainty, up until 2001, being the year that I left the school. I did recently, last year, get in touch with the school to see whether I could get the opportunity to photograph these items
Hmm.
for posterity. And they weren't entirely certain where they were.
Oh,
They've lost them.
dear. Should we prevail upon any listeners who might be able to answer this mystery if they know where they are or have any
Yeah.
information about their whereabouts? Please get in touch with Hoppy Valley, the Burton History Podcast, and let us know.
Or
Here in
directly to the
Furniture,
school. Yeah, or directly to the school and give them back. Um, because
are you using them in your dining room?
yeah, the last thing I got from the school was, oh, I think one of the old boys might have had them to look after them.
Right,
Um,
but nobody knows for sure.
no,
I think that's it. That's something we should try to get to the bottom of. When you got five
I'd
hundred
love to get.
year
I'd
old
love to get them.
piece of
Yeah,
furniture that's part of Burton's history, it's better if it doesn't just disappear into thin air, isn't it, Jim?
yeah.
Like
I'd
some
really
accountability
love that.
for it.
And I, indeed, we know we've got the planning permission and go ahead now for the new museum in town. And certainly, I think if the school don't wish to care for them and look after them themselves, a loan to the museum would be the least they could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an important part of Burton history. A lot of people from Burton obviously went to the school, so it's got a resonance with more than a lot of things probably have actually. In that it's got a connection that directly takes them back to their own upbringing and childhood. So yeah, anyone who's got any idea about this, um, please let us know.
I
A
have got
comment.
some answers to the dates as well, by the way, whilst we've been talking. I've found where I've had them saved. Um, so the grammar school closed and merged with the Ada Chadwick and the Girls' High to become the Abbot Bane School, Comprehensive School, in 1975.
Right.
Um, so the Girls' High, the Ada Chadwick Secondary Modern, and the Burton Grammar School merged in 1975 to become the Abbot Bane Comprehensive. Um, the Abbey Friars Walk location is it's not until 1834 when it moves into those premises, which is much later than I thought it was. But those are if you're in the town centre, it's a really lovely building and well worth a look from the outside.
Yeah. I mean, I thought personally, looking at those buildings, they were older than that. I mean, were those buildings there before? Do you think, or have they been built in a sort of mock Gothic style? Do you think?
They
What?
certainly look much older
Yeah.
than what in 1834. I thought they were much older than 1834. It's something I need to go away and fact check. But it does also say it moved into premises rather than premises were built.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it sort of implies that they were already there. So
Yeah,
they may very well be older, and be interesting to find out what those premises were actually purpose built for,
yeah.
um, and how old they were. I mean, they sort of look around. But I suppose I don't know why, but I just had some sort of idea that they were probably from around the time that the school was established. In the sort of like the middle of the 16th century
Yeah,
or the
I would
first half of the
certainly have
16th
said
century.
it looks like Tudor brickwork.
Yeah.
And I'd have put it firmly in the 16th, early 17th. Looking at the style of the building, that's when I would have placed it.
By this time, of course, the abbey been dissolved, so it's
Yeah,
not.
well, the Abbey, of course, doesn't just disappear overnight.
No,
Um,
but as an institution, it's been dissolved. It's
yeah.
physically there, but it's not actually doing
Well, it
what it
becomes a
done for
college first of
500
all,
years.
doesn't it?
Hmm.
The first thing that happens to the Abbey is it becomes a college, and we mustn't confuse college for our modern connotation of the word college.
Yeah.
It's not a place where spotty oiks are going to learn about media studies and hair treatments. It's
Not
a
not like
place,
not like Aberystwyth University then.
yeah, nothing like that. No,
Yeah.
um, it's very much a seat of learning for academics of a religious tilt again.
Yeah.
I think that following the Reformation, yes, the king no longer wants there to be ties to the Catholic Church, but he still wants to use these learned men who are of a religious nature
Of
and
course,
bring
because
them
if
into the.
you absolutely, 'cause if you've got you've got a whole religion, you want to change that. You can't just abolish everything and say, well, this is what you're doing now. You've got to have people trained to answer these theological questions that are going to come up. People are going to ask, well, what about this? What about that? What happens to me, to my soul, if I if I pursue this idea that you're giving me, and how do we know you're right? So they've got to have a lot of training, a lot of people coming into to a place, um, and getting their story straight. Basically, makes sense. It's a political matter, isn't it, as much as anything else?
Yeah, very much. I mean, I think in terms of the legacy of Abbot William Beyne himself and what he wanted for Burton and Burtonians, I think it's important to have that in mind that although he very much wanted for that learning and education to be outside of the Crown's control, he also very much wanted it to continue in any form. Um, he wanted Burtonians to be educated. He wanted Burton to succeed.
Yeah,
That's why he did what he did. And indeed, I can't imagine him disagreeing with there being a college within the Abbey walls. He just also wanted to make sure that there was learning outside
yeah,
of the control.
yeah. What sort of things on the curriculum at Abbot Baines School then? What are the main topics?
Well, in the early days, there is no record of a definite curriculum, but what we know is that of the time, certainly Latin would have been taught, and theology, and you'd have been made made to. It was about learning to become a more useful and educated individual. So certainly law and legality would have been taught, um, and these are, you know, I think the early schools. It's what can we teach you, yeah, before any sort of national curriculum. Um, Curriculums individually are set by schoolmasters for the benefit of the betterment of those under their charge. And that very much depends on who the schoolmaster is, and following on from that, what the schoolmaster's motives and intentions are. Um, and I think we can say with some certainty that if you are being sent to school, there's a fee being paid for that. And if you're being sent to school, the expectation is for you to become a more useful and successful person in later life. So if we look at Tudor England, law, legality, the negotiation thereof, these are things that are absolutely fundamental to the political landscape of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've got is a situation where the school in Burton is going to train you to go to Oxford or Cambridge University, where you can go and pursue law or theology, or whatever it is you wish to pursue. But the general picture when it comes to sort of medieval and early modern schools is that they're based around the seven liberal arts of the trivium, which is where we get the word trivial,
Mm.
strangely, because actually these are very much the pillars of learning, and they are grammar, logic, and rhetoric. They're the trivium. So anything that's trivial relates to grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Um, the other four liberal arts are music, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. From the time of Boethius, who wrote the Consolation of Philosophy, known as the Quadrivium. So the seven liberal arts, that they're basically what your curriculum's going to be, and I suppose they kind of offer you the opportunity to then go on for further study at an actual university. But I think when we talk about people having an education, it's very difficult to imagine really what that's like, because our modern idea of it is kind of all consuming in that respect. It's hard to imagine something that we feel is very ingrained into society in terms of going to school or going off to a university or something. These are, very, very not limited, well, limited subjects, but they're very specific subjects that you're going to have to get through in order. And it's all being conducted in Latin as well, isn't it? It's not really,
Yeah.
and Greek. So, who was it who had little Latin and less Greek in his school report?
Henry VIII?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. All right.
Yeah.
Little
Um,
Latin and less Greek.
yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else you'd like to say about Abbot Beyne, the institution, and so on?
Only that, my biggest thing is absolutely that we should try and find these two artifacts.
Yeah,
Um, that for
definitely. I mean,
me is the absolutely biggest issue
yeah,
in current times. Um, and then I think if we bear in mind the school's motto, not that it's I don't think they still use it, but Deus Nobiscum, which was the grammar school's motto, through God and ability. Um, that's what Abbot Bane wanted. He wanted us to be noble. I don't think nobility necessarily means, in this sense, being a member of the aristocracy, but the act of being a noble person. And I think what little we know about the abbot himself and what he did, he was an intelligent man who wanted Burtonians to better themselves. He wanted Burtonians to strive for the town to succeed. And, well, that's surely something we can all aspire to.
yeah. There's a sort of moral incentive, isn't there? Which is quite an interesting thing to kind of point to end on. So if you're out there and you know anything about these missing 500-year-old pieces of furniture, get in touch with us. Email address, as ever, is bht@goldenbadger.co.uk. You can leave a message for us on various different platforms, formats, whatever, however you get your podcasts. And please do let us know. I mean, we're going to be looking for this, do a bit of detective work ourselves, see what we can come up with. Maybe have another approach to the school itself and see if they've got anything to say. But yeah, for sure, if you know anything, please let us know. Give us a shout. We'd be delighted to hear from you as always. And anything else that you'd like to tell us or ask us, and we can go and research it, or maybe we already might be able to help you with that. As far as history walks go, the 15th of November, if this goes out before, I'm always getting my times mixed up, never know where I am. If this goes out prior to the 15th of November, we'll be meeting at 12 o'clock midday outside the Burton Brewery as ever. And then we're also out and about on December the 28th, which is a Sunday at midday. So join us for one of those two if you'd like. It's quite a nice thing to do, isn't it, Jim? After Christmas and before the New Year, go for a walk.
In that period that I commonly refer to as Blur's Day, stretch the legs, enjoy yourselves, come and join us.
Come and join us. We'd be delighted to see you. So, thanks for joining us on this occasion. And until the next time on Hoppy Valley, the Burton History Podcast, it's goodbye from me, Blue, and it's goodbye from him,
Jim.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.